All right, welcome back, sports fans, to the 23XV Sports Show. We are on episode 36, and we look a little bit different today. My co host Bryan, he's out, took the PTO to spend some time with his family that came up to see him there in Wisconsin, so we'll have to allow it today. I owe him a couple, so it's his turn to take some time off. I told him I'd try to rock a solo show today, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter one. We're just going to talk some NFL football, and I got a special announcement for you at the end of the episode. So tune in, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. So we're going to jump straight in to NFL Week 1. So with the first game of the week was on the day we recorded last week. We had the Ravens at the Chiefs, and so I had the Ravens winning the Chiefs winning by a field goal, and Bryan had the Ravens winning by 2 touchdowns. And honestly, as I was watching it, I was like, this game's going to be a blowout. Mahomes looked good at first. The Chiefs' defense looked really good. But then the Ravens slowed down. Chiefs got out to a big lead, and then they came back. But then at the very end of the last drive, you got Lamar, making moves, getting the ball down to the red zone, and then, misses Zay Flowers. Ball was actually going to Duvernay, but just barely missed him, and then likely had his toe out by an inch on the last play of the game. That would have been an incredible finish. It was an incredible finish, but it would have been even better, to see that and see them go for 2, because Harbaugh was ready to line them up to go for 2. But props to the Chiefs for getting the win week 1. And we'll see how they do the rest of the year. I think they're going to be pretty hard to beat, especially Xavier Worthy got in the action, was playing well. Travis Kelce had a really slow game. But, Rashee Rice, he's getting into it. Pacheco had a good game. Noah Gray had a big game. So even a lot of the Chiefs' weapons, they're all contributing, and they're going to have to for them to be able to be true contenders again this year and to three-peat. So I like the Chiefs moving forward. And then going on to the 12 o'clock, to the Friday game, we had the Packers and the Eagles. Jordan Love goes down with an MCL injury. He's out for 4 weeks, maybe a few more. But that was a good game as well. Biggest surprise for me that game was Saquon Barkley. 3 touchdowns. They really emphasized him in the game and wanted to spotlight him a lot. So running the ball, even receiving, he played well. Jalen Hurts played okay. A.J. Brown played well. The defense started to show up a little bit, but they've got some work to do. I have the Eagles winning their division, but if that's going to happen, the defense is really going to have to step up. But with a few new pieces on the offensive line, they'll be okay. But Jaden Reed for the Packers, big game. 2 touchdowns, 200-some yards. Had most yards by any receiver in the NFL for week 1. The Packers look good. They're going to be tough. I think they really need Josh Jacobs to return to Josh Jacobs' form if they're going to compete in that division. That division is very tough. And so if they're going to compete with the Lions to win the division, to even make the playoffs, they're going to have to play well these next 4 weeks, especially because you can't go down and start off 1-4, 0-5. I mean, heck, even a 2-3 start is kind of rough. So they're going to have to play some of their best ball coming up, and Malik Willis is going to have to really step in there and do his job. But I have a lot of faith in the Eagles that they can play well and that they can be one of the best teams in the NFC. So just moving, right along, you got the Cardinals and the Bills. Their game was a lot closer than anticipated. Josh Allen played Superman, but that can't be their winning recipe for the rest of the year. Even though he's a top three quarterback in the NFL, top two. He's they've got to rely on James Cook and Kincaid, uh, not Komet, their other tight end. And then he's going to have to lean on some of young receivers, Shakur and Coleman, and they're really going to have to gel fast. And the defense is going to have to play well as well. But the Cardinals really surprised me, putting up 26 points, even with Marvin Harrison having, I think, 3 catches, maybe. Uh, he's going to have to get some more targets in there. The defense played surprisingly well for the Cardinals, but they had the game wrapped up and had Marvin Harrison wide open down the field. And Kyler just was under pressure and didn't get the ball to him, didn't see him. So they had a chance to win it, but they just couldn't get it done. But hats off to the Cardinals. I have them only winning like 3 or 4 games all year, so they really, really surprised me. But the biggest surprise of the weekend comes from my Patriots. Going in to Cincinnati, playing Patriot football. Gerard Mayo has the team disciplined, playing defense first. We're not going to beat ourselves. And we're going to run the ball down your throat. Ramondre Stevenson, 140 yards rushing, I believe. We forced 3 turnovers. Going in to Cincinnati and winning that was huge. But, week 1 doesn't mean anything. And then as far as disappointment in that game, I look at Joe Burrow. They're my Super Bowl team. The Bengals are. But Joe Burrow does not look the same. That wrist looks rough. And I know they said it's a rare injury. So looking at that and trying to really evaluate it. I'm not a medical doctor by any means, but he doesn't look the same. And if he can't regain form, I'd hate for his career to be cut short because of injury like that. But he's a great quarterback. If he can get it together, Jamar Chase has to really lock in for this team. I hate to say it, but being selfish is not a recipe for winning football. And right now, he's hurting the team more than anything. And then T. Higgins, dealing with hamstring injury as well. So I'd love to be able to see them fully healthy again, playing good football. But will we see that this year? Who knows? But moving on for the rest of the week, another big game for my boy Bryan was the Bears. The Bears coming in there, going to Tennessee, or in Chicago, Tennessee coming there, and laying an egg in the first half, and then the defense just come alive and won that game for them. Caleb Williams made a few big throws at the end. They made some good plays running the ball. DJ Moore is the focal point of that offense. No matter who else is on that team, hopefully, Rome Dunes, he's not hurt too bad. His hamstring's good, and he's good to go for this week. And Keenan Allen kind of hobbled off. But Cole Kmet, he scored. And in the run game looked okay. DeAndre Swift, he looked good. Khalil Herbert looked good. But the defense is incredible on that team. So they made Will Levis look like a joke out there. So sorry to all my Titans fans. We got a ton of those here in Kentucky. We got some in the family as well. But I'm just, gosh, I hate the Titans so much because their fans are super annoying. But hopefully the Bears can keep it going. Hopefully Caleb Williams figures it out a little more. He was inefficient, but when it mattered, he played well. So hopefully coming into week 2, he can really step into form and grow from week 1, and really trust his receivers instead of trying to play a lot of hero ball. Trust his receivers to help make the plays, hit the check downs when he needs to. Don't always have to get the big plays. So, huge Caleb Williams fan. I hope they figure it out. because Bryan's got big hopes for him. 12 wins. I think I had him at 8 and 9, third in the division. But still, 8 wins is good for the Bears. Um, but they're just a couple. They're a year away. They're a year away. So let's we'll see how week 2 goes. Hopefully they can keep them momentum going and get a dub. Um, biggest One of the biggest surprises, another one, was the Saints. I know they played the Panthers. I know the Panthers aren't very good. Bryce Young looks like a bust. Um, they're not a good team at all. Um, but Derek Carr looked like an MVP out there. Um, he played well. Alvin Kamara kind of looked like had some youth in them legs again. It was nice to see. I'd like to be able to see them win a little bit. I like Derek Carr. You know, as a person, he seems like a good guy. As a quarterback, I don't love him, but you know, he's he is who he is. You know what you're getting from him most of the time, and it's a range to he's a 15 to 20 quarterback. He's not good like great, but he's not the worst either. So, but if they can play like this, they could make some noise, win some games. But I still think they're capped out about 6 wins. But the Panthers, they looked really, really bad, and Bryce Young looks bad. I'd say if Bryce Young doesn't have a good year, doesn't grow any, I think they could be you know looking for a franchise quarterback elsewhere as well. And he's not that guy. The sophomore year's been hard for him. Already 1 game in. But speaking of sophomores, Texans and Colts, you got C.J. Stroud, you got Anthony Richardson. Both quarterbacks looked really good. Richardson made good plays with his feet, good plays with his arms. But Texans just a little bit better. Stephon Diggs, looked like he was, in a little spat on the sideline, but got it together, got some catches. That team looks good. Joe Mixon was a missing piece for them. To be able to run the ball, hit the play action with Stroud, tons of weapons all over the field for that team. I think the sky's the limit for them. They could be Super Bowl contenders this year. So just trying to see their progression throughout the year. Make sure Stroud's still developing and playing up to his potential as well with that receiving core, because they probably had the best in the league. You have Diggs and Nico Collins. You've got Tank Dell, and then you've got Mixon and Dalton Schultz at the tight end position. Brevin Jordan. You have a really good roster around him and a good defense. So if they can, continue to grow, they'll be fine. Best game of the week for me was the Lions and the Rams. Um, it was good to see. Um, it was good to see Cooper Kupp get back to form. 21 targets, 14 catches, 150 yards, I believe, and a touchdown. Um, felt great to have him on my fantasy team. Put up some 30-some points. So it's good to see that. I know Puka goes down with an injury. He's out for 4 to 5 weeks. Matt Stafford looked good, but their defense is awful. Is really, really bad. They miss Aaron Donald and his leadership a lot, but they're not a good team defensively, and so I think that's going to hurt them more than anything. But the Lions, their run game played great. The pass game wasn't as good. Amon-Ra, I think 1 catch for 14 yards or something. It wasn't a whole lot. But David Montgomery looked good. Jahmyr Gibbs looked good. And Jameson Williams is finally starting to click. Speedster from Alabama. He can go out there, and I think he's got potential to have 12, 13, 1,400 yards this year and 12 plus touchdowns. If he can stay healthy, if he can keep his mind right, if he can stay focused, he's taking pressure off of Amon-Ra, and he's taking pressure off of Sam Laporta, off the running game, Gibbs, Montgomery. making Goff's life easier. He's going to get the targets, and he can produce, and he can win games for him. He's a he's a baller. That's all. That's about all I've got to say about him. He's really really good. Had a couple lackluster games. Steelers Falcons just kind of blah. Kirk Cousins didn't play well. Justin Fields, is he QB1? Is he QB2 when Russ comes back? Just kind of wait and see. The Vikings and the Giants. Sam Darnold looked good. Wasn't seeing Ghost out there. But it's Sam Darnold. Jefferson played well. Aaron Jones looked good. Had the youth, found the fountain of youth, and he played really, really well. So, but once again, it's the Giants. Daniel Jones isn't any good. Them and the Panthers will be competing for last place. They're not either. Neither of them teams are any good this year. Both of them could be looking for quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. Any of those guys could be the quarterback of the future for those teams. Chargers, Raiders. Slow game at first. Justin Herbert coming off of injury, whole new offense. Didn't look too bad. Harbaugh, looks good out there coaching again. I love Harbaugh. I'm a big fan. For the Raiders, I think really a lone bright spot for me would be Brock Bowers. He's everything that was advertised. He's going to be, him and Devontae Adams are going to be the top targets. Jacoby Myers will be up there as well too. But Bowers looked really good. I'm excited to see his rookie year and how it progresses, and seeing how he can help the team win games. Bucks Commanders. You've got Jaden Daniels, played great. Completed a lot of his passes. Was efficient, and ran the ball 16 times for 2 touchdowns. I know Dan Quinn said that's not the recipe for success, and Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are going to get more touches. But all in all, good performance by the Commanders, but just wasn't enough because Baker Mayfield played like the number 1 pick of a few years ago. Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin had a touchdown. Finally regaining his form after his ACL injury. 8 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown, I believe. Defense played pretty well. After losing a bunch of your good players, Carlton Davis, Devin White, Shaq Barrett, lost all of those and still come out and played well. But go Bucks, good for them. Baker is a guy that it's hard to root against. He's a tough guy, tough quarterback, but he's great. Then Broncos, Seahawks, 26-20, but to me it was a snooze fest. I tuned in for a few minutes and just to see what Bo Nix could do, but just really wasn't impressed. So I flipped it off as fast as I turned it on. So we're just gonna skip that. Cowboys Browns. Cowboys looked good. Dak could have played better, especially with that big contract he just got. He's going to have to play well to live up to that contract. 10 wins isn't enough. 1 and done in the playoffs or 1 playoff win isn't enough. And his 5-year deal, 5 years left on the deal, they need to win 1, possibly 2 Super Bowls, beat a multiple. If he's the highest paid quarterback in football, he has to produce. And I don't know if he's capable of that in the playoffs. No, I'm not a big Cowboys fan. I don't like Mike McCarthy. I think he's going to actually get fired after this year. And I think that's a perfect place for Bill Belichick to go in and coach. But that's for a later discussion. But I do. Zeke come in. He played pretty well. Rico Dowdle. CeeDee Lamb looked good off the rip. Not much practice, but it's CeeDee. What else can you say about it? He's the best receiver in football in my eyes, outside of Justin Jefferson. But he produced. He played well. And the Browns, no Nick Chubb, but Amari Cooper, like 1 catch, something like that. But Deshaun Watson, you know, reports come out. I'm not going to get into all of it. He's a joke. I think he's going to be out of the league now for sure. I give him halfway through the year, and he may be off the team. Jameis Winston. I think if Jameis Winston was playing, they could have won that game. They have a good defense. They have a good team, but Deshaun Watson is not Houston Texans Deshaun Watson. He got his money. He doesn't really care. Um, we can see that. So I don't believe um, he's gonna do much. But I do believe after these new allegations have come out, and they say video evidence. I don't think it's long till he's out of the league and he's done. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Jameis is the guy for that team. I believe I would start him this next week because you have too much talent, too much potential to waste your season with a quarterback who's not going to win you games. And that's exactly what Deshaun Watson's doing, is not winning you ball games. But moving on to the last game of the week, you've got the Jets and the 49ers. 49ers are deep. That's all I've got to say. They have the most talent, the most depth. They're the best team in football, I believe, and they're going to be really, really hard to beat this year. Brock Purdy didn't, no touchdowns, 19 of 29, 231 yards. But Jordan Mason, he is the bright spot all week, all of football. Player of the week in my eyes, 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. Knowing that he probably wasn't starting, but like the day of the game, knew he's going to play a lot from Friday, but didn't know to what extent. Comes in there, plays his best football. The dude was outstanding. Outstanding. So hats off to Jordan Mason. He's going to have to keep playing. Maybe this next week he can just keep it up and keep grinding. But Jordan Mason, great game. Debo played pretty well, had a rushing touchdown, 5 catches, 54 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 2 catches, 28 yards, but he was getting strapped by the best corner in football in Sauce Gardner. I know Ayuk said, I don't want to go look at the tape because, it was trash, whatever. So he'll have bounce back. He'll play well the rest of the year. And once they really get going and CMC's back, they're going to be so hard to beat. I had him going 13-4, and I believe Bryan had him going 14-3 or 15-2, maybe. But it's going to be tough for them to not go 16-1, really, unless injuries pile up or however that goes. But I do believe they are. It's their year. They are destined to win the Super Bowl this year. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan does not hold them back. He's a great coach, but I think he's been to 3 Super Bowls, 1 as a coordinator, 2 as a coach, and he's 0-3. So I'd love to see him get over the hump, but we'll see. I think they have a great year, and I think they're going to be really, really hard to beat. But looking ahead to this week, trying to find game of the week. I think I have 3 games that I really like. One starting out with the Chiefs and the Bengals. It may be bad. It may be a blowout by the Chiefs. They may just straight up come out and just dismantle the Bengals. But if the Bengals play Bengal football and Chase shows up, Higgins plays, Burrow's not injured, I think it could be a really good game. But I'm still going to pick the Chiefs in that one, especially when you're looking at it spread Kansas City -5.5. I would take that all day, every day. Next big game is Bears at Texans. If the Bears defense can hold Houston, minimal rushing yards or just slow them down a little bit and play good defense, it could be a good game. I do like the Texans, though, to win because I don't think Caleb Williams is there yet. I don't think he's good enough to win this game. But if he does and plays some good football, watch out. These Bears could make a ton of noise in the rest of the league for the rest of the year. Um, but the best game of the week for me is the Bucks Lions. Um, it's in Detroit, but I love the Buccaneers this year. I love Baker Mayfield. Love Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, K. Dot, and that offense is full of big body players who are physical and can make moves and can win ball games. They're all gritty. They play with a lot of heart, just like the Lions did last year. Not saying the Lions don't have that this year, but they can still come out and play great. These are going to be two nitty gritty football teams. Look forward to them playing Sunday and possibly again in the playoffs. But their lines -7.5. I'll take the Bucks on that all day, every day. So if you're in the bet mood, pick the Bucks +7.5. That's the move to go. So that's all we got for football for the NFL this week. Just kind of wanting to touch on a few things for college football. So first we've got the biggest game of the week was Texas at Michigan. We really were hoping for a good game, like a title preview maybe, or something competitive. But Michigan didn't even show up. It took them a long time to do anything, but Texas really, stifled Edwards, and their quarterback he does not have it. Or he may, but against Texas he didn't. Quinn Ewers looks like the best quarterback in football right now. He's definitely in the top three. But I believe you put him on any other team, and they're title contenders. I think he's probably better than Carson Beck, but he's up there with Dylan Gabriel. I think he's up there with Miller Moss from USC. USC is a great team this year. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I like, but Texas looks great. Of course, Georgia looks good. Alabama, rough start to the game. It was really close, but then they pulled away. I think 42-16. So they had a good good ending to the game, but they started off pretty bad. A few other good games that went on this week, but some blowouts as well. So, my Kentucky Wildcats, we thought we were going to be a good team this year, but our offensive line is just really, really bad, and we got blown out by South Carolina, who's a mediocre team. But if we're getting blown out by mediocre teams, then we're a really bad team. So they play number one Georgia this week, and it's going to be ugly in Lexington. But just a couple other teams, USC, like I mentioned them, I really like them. I think they're the second best team in the Big Ten behind Ohio State. I think they're ahead of Penn State a little bit. Not in the rankings, but, in my mind, I think they are. I could see them getting to the playoffs, making a little bit of noise this year. I don't think they're ready to win a title, but you never know. It could surprise me. And then the last team I want to hit on is Colorado. They have the biggest hype around them. They have the biggest name at head coach, some of the biggest names on their roster. They make the most noise in the offseason, but the team is an absolute joke. Shedeur Sanders is okay, but they literally go into Nebraska and Shiloh's at the coin toss and says, "We're about to roll your ass." And they got rolled. They're not a good football team. Dion is in it for the show, I believe. He's in it to get his boys, Travis Hunter, to the league, and he's going to bounce. He's going to go somewhere different. But they are just not a good team. They are a social media team. They're there for the hype. They're there for, oh, look at me in the flash. Got the money on the wrist. I saw the report that Dion was like, when Shedeur scores a touchdown, we're not going to the band's not going to play the fight song because he wants to play his rap song. Like, come on, dude. At some point, you have to reflect in the mirror. But he's always been a flashy guy. Won games at Jackson State, which is cool. Like, but you're in the big time now. You're in the Big 12. Um, you've got to win games, and you can't be here for show and flash and look at me. And I believe that's all they're about. He wants to get you know his sons to the league, and he wants to get Travis Hunter to the league this year. And I think he's going to leave Colorado after this year. But hopefully we don't have to talk about them too much because I'm not a fan at all. But it is what it is. Got a little football in today, um, little bit of college football, and just kind of going from there. But just a quick announcement: starting this week or next week, I kind of got a late jump on it, but every week also we're gonna continue our normal sports show. Every Friday it'll release, but earlier in the week we're gonna have a mini show where I will host it, and it'll be all NFL football. We'll do rankings. We'll talk about quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, each different week. Coaches will have like a power ranking for the teams. We'll go over rookies. We'll deep dive into the NFL, and it'll be just a little mini show that we're going to go through. I'm super excited about getting it going and just being able to talk about football, something that I'm super passionate about, and hope that we can get some fan interaction, possibly get them to tune in to the show and get them get on some calls and do some Q's and A's and stuff like that. So it'll be cool, and I'm super excited, and just be on the lookout for it next week. All right, but that's gonna do it for today, and we'll see you next week. Peace.